How are you?
I'm fantastic.
Thank you for taking time to meet with me. I wanted to follow up from our last discussion when we kind of did, oh, my Starbucks, thank you. I have to have that near me though. To follow up a bit from our last meeting, we did kind of an overview and a debrief about how you thought the live coaching went with your paras. And we kind of talked a little bit about, I think one of your concerns was more around the consequence, about them understanding the consequence as part of the behavior equation.
It can, like, it's not always punishment.
Yes, it's not, and that their behavior could be the consequence and how that affects that. So I was thinking a little bit about that and what other strategies or what other we could do a little differently. And that's why I appreciate you taking this time, as far as my skill level of teaching you to teach other people, to pass it on. Because we're still going to go do the peer-peer, so I figured I wanted to simplify what we did a little bit. What I did is I kind of refilled this out. This is the strategy skill set. I wanted to review it with you. So I'm going over things with you today. I would have you to, this is your copy, to check it, just make sure I'm really hitting all the high points. And then we can add some things, and if you think there's more that we get into and talk about before we do our, like, so I'm going to model this for you today, do a training and model it, and then maybe have you do kind of rehearsal back.
Okay.
So I changed the goal just a little bit. I simplified it a little bit. I think it was kind of broad the last time, but a lot of that's because, as you know, I love talking about this. But I also need for people, I need to know, and and the paras and your peers, that not all of them have been learning this and went to graduate school about this.
You have a lot to share.
Yeah, a lot to share, but maybe just simplify it to begin with. So the new goal will be for you to teach your peer, Tara, about shaping behavior through utilizing the behavioral equation and kind of what components, because I think that's a good place to start with a lot of people. So I'm going to give you the handouts that I made. I'm first going to talk about the first slide, which is to refer to what lies beneath the surface of the slide.
I love handouts.
Well, because you are a visual learner like I am. I mean, I need handouts. I need to hold things. I also like those tangible items. So.
Right. Like right now, I'm probably just catching half of what you're saying.
Right.
Just kidding.
Thank you. And that's why I wrote it all down. So I figured too.
Thank you.
That's why when you go back to practice with me, we can go back. I know my handwriting's a little poor. Hopefully you can read it. So. But I figured we can go over this first, and then I can kind of do the whole thing for you. So this is going to be, I'm going to refer to this, which is, I love this slide. I think it's a wonderful slide. We're going to refer to the behavior equations and the ABCs of behavior, which these are these two slides together. I thought we'd go over a real life example, Madison, and then kind of talk about how they see the, her behavior going into the antecedent column and the consequences.
Oh, that'll be really helpful to have a.
I thought it would be good to have a little. And then what I would like to do actually at the end, I know it's 2 pages here because my pages ain't quite. I would love to do something for you, like do a behavior and kind of show you on the last page that I'm handing out, like how I'll find a behavior and show you how antecedents and consequences can affect. At the end, you can find a behavior you'd love to do, some antecedents and consequences to kind of practice that. I think that sometimes will help us both. I know I was talking to Tara the other day about taking notes and how I like to take my own notes because I need to write it down when I am learning it personally. So I think you're pretty common to that too.
Me too.
So to kind of go through and do kind of, this is going to be kind of a coaching on topic and modeling at the same time, if that's okay. Great. So this is your copy to kind of give me feedback. That'd be wonderful.
Okay.
Well, I'm kind of going over everything after a little bit, and I have your copies. Here's this again. So these are the handouts and pass-outs to talk about how we would shape a behavior through utilizing the behavioral equation. So I like the first slide. It says, this is one of the ones from Pyramid Plus. It says, what lies beneath the surface and shows the behavior is, I think that's erupting volcano and underneath.
Oh, it's the tip of the iceberg.
Oh, it's the iceberg, yes, that's right.
I remember that.
You remember that, good. Tip of the iceberg, and then this whole thing underneath is unmet need. I think, it's funny, I was talking to my husband about this last night, about how every behavior is observable, and every behavior is, we kind of go into these slides, every behavior has an antecedent, trigger, or, and then there's a consequence. So I know there's...
It's okay if I write on this?
This is your copy to keep. So I think kind of keeping everything, I say again, every behavior is observable. For example, that man's walking down the street. If we target that as the behavior, what is the antecedents? Well, it could be that he's hungry and he's going to King Soopers. It could be he's late for work. I mean, everything is observable. It's figuring out those antecedents, and then knowing the consequence of that behavior is what is key. And that's what's going to help us to shape behavior, to understand. So then down on the third slide here, the positive behavior support the antecedents, setting for the behavior. The trigger could be a chance, could be a change in the physical surroundings, social circumstances, or behavior of others.
Okay.
So, and like even it could be the time of day. I used to teach a class about that. Like always at 8 o'clock in the morning, this kid would do this. Or what do I do every day at 7 o'clock? I take my dog for a walk. What's the antecedent? She's whining. I know she has to go outside. The behavior again. A specific action that a person does that can be observed. Like I said, that behavior is observable. The consequence, what happens immediately after the behavior. So those are kind of an overview. Like I said, we can go really deeply into this, and I want to kind of give an overview of this information today.
I think this is good because a lot of times what people don't understand is the consequence doesn't necessarily mean something you do on purpose.
Exactly.
I think people think, well, there's... You know what I mean? Like we're gonna what actually happens in the environment. That's
exactly. Well, and like again, I'll share a personal example with you. I always and my husband is always like, you say you're behavioralist, but you reinforce that dog for bad behavior, and I do. The dog whines, and she whines, and she whines, and she jumps in the bed, and then I'll start petting her. She wants me to pet her. The behavior is she wants me to pet her, and she knows if she whines long enough and starts pawing me, I will do it. And I'm consequence? I'm reinforcing her. Okay, Gracie, whine a lot. I mean, I'm with my dog. I don't have a lot of. It's hard for me. So this I just thought was a great example to kind of use. If you want to read through the Madison thing real quick, I don't have to read it out loud. So. Okay. So I think, and this is their example, it's already filled out. So their behavior is that no and bites the child. That specific thing is that no bites the child.
Okay. And the trigger was the other child taking a toy.
Yes.
From what she was playing with.
Okay. And the consequence?
Sent to the thinking chair. That was her consequences. But then but the other child was removed, and then she got the toy because so really, even though she got a timeout, she also got
the toy.
She also got reinforced because she got to get the purse back, and the little girl, she doesn't have to share because the little girl was removed.
So what do you think will happen the next time this is antecedent happens? And
maybe the same thing, because then because her if the function of the behavior is to avoid sharing the purse, that worked. It
worked for her. That worked.
Okay.
So it's just kind of interesting. So like I think I said, I don't want to get too far into the whole function. I do a whole thing on the motivation assessment scale and stuff, but I think it's important to understand that sometimes the consequence, not always purposeful consequence, is that going to give us the desired?
Okay.
Is it going to make the behavior repeat itself?
Right. Okay.
So I think
this teacher thought she was providing a consequence that would deter the behavior. You think you're giving the other child attention.
Yes.
She's getting a timeout.
Right.
But it's ignoring what the function is.
Which it goes back to that.
Right.
Yes.
So the consequence that the teacher's purposefully doing isn't addressing the function.
Yeah.
I understand.
Shocked. Oh, I know. It's good. So, and then this just one more slide I kind of put in there too. setting the events that occur at another time and place that increase the likelihood the child will have challenging behaviors. Like you said, it's going to be the same events when, like you said, when the child takes the purse. Setting the events to serve to set the child up to have challenging behavior. It's almost like, if every day at circle time when Jimmy can't sit in a blue chair, he he bites somebody. If you don't have a blue chair for Jimmy, he's gonna bite. So how do you work around that? And common setting events are psychological circumstances such as illness and pain. I mean, I know illness and pain. Like I know with some children who might be sensitive to sound, if they get in a loud environment, they might hit somebody because they're actually feeling pain, so they're acting out. So that's kind of what that is. So the next one, so I think we've gone over these so far. We read the as an example, we explained the events, and reviewed the setting.
Okay.
So what I would love to do is kind of show, and I wrote this down for our next one. I'd love to fill one out and have you watching, then maybe we'll have you fill one out and we can do it together.
And is it going to be on the little Molly? I mean, not Molly, the little girl?
Well, I'd like to do something a little differently. I thought maybe a more of a personalized one. It's funny, I did this with my husband last night because, he is not a behavioralist and was like, what are you talking about? So I kind of did this. Filling out a data sheet, I'd fill out, if I'm going to fill this out on myself, fine, okay, I'll put Jen Farrow. And it is still May 2013. It's just good to have this information filled out too, kind of because in 2 years from now they might look back and say, okay, target behavior. I'm gonna have my targeted behavior. Honestly,
maybe we could practice on the little boy I videotaped.
I would love to practice on that one. That's actually the next step. Is I was going to have you pick what you want to do.
Oh, what is that?
So
that's live. Now what are we doing?
I just wanted us to fill one out kind of together that was more geared toward me, and then.
Okay.
But
you tell me.
If you think if you think we don't really need this step, we can not do this step and just do one on the little boy. I was going to give you one more example.
No. This is good for me.
Okay, so I was going to say target behavior is paid. This is easy. I find just for my husband paid. On the 31st. Like we get paid on the 31st.
Oh.
Okay. So my behavior is my paycheck. I get a paycheck. Okay. And what are some antecedents of me getting a paycheck on the 30th or the 30th of the month? I'm just doing a broad topic.
Work.
I work.
You have to go to work.
I log my hours. I need to. So that's one. I just always think of things you can do forever. I mean, I work. I filled out my absent leaves. I mean, I have to do that. I have to have a job. It's usually the last day of the month. Day of the month. Those are just antecedents.
And then one of mine would be run out of money.
Run out of money. Well, that happens because of that, right? Right. So, and the behavior is I get a paycheck or I get money deposited in my account. Okay. What is the consequence of having money deposited in my account? Just think broad terms.
Pay your bills.
Pay my bills.
Go out to dinner. Fix your bike.
Yeah, dinner, fix bike, exactly. I think, and the consequence I would think too is, so I realize I get paid every month, I'm going to go back to work.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Back to work. Because I'm going to say, I got paid on the 31st, so I'm going to go back to work again. It's kind of a secret thing. Let's say my antecedents, watch this. I don't do any of that. This is kind of, I was thinking more about, so I don't go to work. I just don't go to work. I say, I go to work. I don't film anything. I don't have a job. I still get a paycheck every month. What are the consequences going to be now? I still pay my bills. I'll go to dinner.
Oh, but you skip.
Will I go to work?
Why work? Because you're getting paid for not working. So
exactly.
You just skip work.
I mean, really, honestly, I'm like, what if I work, I get my paycheck, and I don't pay my bills? and that can go into a whole other behavior that could happen. I mean, if I don't pay my bills from when I get paid,
Then
I could get creditors. I mean, I could, so.
then you may end up having to get a second job. That would be the
That I'm,
behavior.
yeah,
That if you keep up, right? If you keep up. But tell me, am I understanding?
yeah. Well, think about it. I mean, so,
That's-
or
you might keep working.
let's say I work, I fill my leave, and in behavior, I don't get a paycheck.
Right.
What if this, like, okay, for example, I didn't get my mileage check this month. I would have gotten it today. I didn't get it. So my consequences are gonna change. I couldn't pay my bills if I didn't get a paycheck.
Mhm.
I'm gonna call HR
Mhm.
immediately, and I'm going to complain.
Mhm.
So I think this is just, like, this is a real easy one to keep in mind.
Okay.
That kind of, but let's do the one, have you practiced on the one that,
Paycheck?
you know, for the
that
little boy?
Okay.
Tell me what the behavior is.
He hits his peers.
Put down,
And
write that down right there.
okay, that day, okay, hits.
His peers, I mean, just,
Okay. Hits peers.
okay. What are some of the antecedents?
Well, it always seems to be when it's always when he's close to a peer. Do you know what I
Okay,
mean? It's
so-
like sometimes I worry if he
Close
starts to
proximity
get
to peer.
It's almost
Can it be even more specific? Is it within a foot of a peer? Is it within 2 inches? I mean, is it?
like 2 inches. You know what I mean? When
Put that down, I mean,
close
I think,
proximity, like
I personally think that the more clear we can get with the antecedents,
2 inches, maybe 5 inches. 6
like
inches.
this close, probably about 5 inches. I mean, I would say this is 5 inches,
And it's close proximity. It's
And close proximity can it be back to back, or is it like facing, a peer is facing him?
facing him. They're
Put that
usually okay.
Oh, it'd
facing
be
him.
interesting, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Say, so maybe facing a peer. Is there a time of day it happens?
No, well, it's in the afternoon because he comes in the afternoon. But it's
Okay,
pretty
but
much-
put that down, because, I mean, it'd be interesting. It'd be interesting, we don't see him in the morning right now,
Mhm.
but we might see him next year in the morning. Maybe he won't do it in the morning.
And when somebody's talking to him,
Okay,
you know,
an
what I mean?
adult or a child?
Both. Sometimes he hits
Put down either adult or child speaking to him. I think that's a good, I mean, that's a great observation to put down, that this could be.
Because from what I remember, it's not always like
No.
a negative interaction. He just
Right.
doesn't seem to understand.
And I personally would rather put down more antecedents than not. And you might be off base, but you might be missing something.
Adult child speaking to him.
Is it every day that he comes in that he does it?
Mhm.
So it happens every day. I just put that down as antecedent. Happens every day. And he's at school, Does it happen, what else am I trying to think of, Renee? So he's there for what, 2.5 hours?
Mhm.
What time, like, does it happen the first hour? Is there a lull time before it happens? Is there, where I think if you went in and, like, I know you guys went in and did this, I would do timings.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it could be interesting to see, it always happens at 1:30.
Mhm.
It always happens because maybe at 11 he got his meds. You know what I mean? Like I think that is interesting to find out. If there's a time that, if he's not, let's say if he's on medication, or if he's not on medication. That's why I know